separation from Nico Reger. Reger's trying to keep pace. There's a good look at a car back of the pack. That's Koskinen, we should say. That's Matt Koskinen, the 71 machine. He is currently in the 21st position. Now, Jake, more separation among the top five, and those guys are really starting to pull away from that sixth place running car of Sparks, who's leading Lamb and Kimball, Henderson, and others.
You see there in that 87 machine, good look at it. That's that rookie from yesterday, Celine Roland, who was so good and really had it in the late stages. Looked like he was going to be able to get the win, but then Ortiz and as well Dean II able to get around him on the final turn of the race. That fell Celine Roland down to the third position, and it looked like that rookie was going to get a win in his debut. Up front, pass for the lead, that is Nico Reger, back in position where we saw him in the first 15 minutes yesterday, out in front of the field. Ortiz is going to keep his car in the middle of the racetrack. That allows Ortiz, as Reger got hung out just a little bit, Ortiz able to get by, Luke Oxner able to as well. Nico Reger all of a sudden goes from the point, running in the first spot, down now, possibly to falling to the third position if Oxner, as he does, can complete that pass.
Ortiz racing experience includes the Cody Challenge, the Wheel and All-American Series, the NASCAR K&N Series. He's also done some Touring Series races in Puerto Rico. He loves the competition. He says best racing moment, finishing on the podium at Daytona in that K&N Pro Series. When he's not at the racetrack, you'll probably find him boating somewhere.
And again, Ortiz had the lead. Then he saw it go away. It did not last for long. Puts himself right back up into position. Battle right there that we're watching. That's a good one. It's the battle for fourth. Joey Bickers in that 34 machine, but he's got his mirrors full right now. That's Robert Stout working hard on it.
That's a pretty good battle. They're nose to tail. A little bit of separation among the front three. Ortiz, Oxner, and Reger starting to pull away a little bit. You don't question as to if Robert Stout can make the pass on Joey Bickers. It might be a question of when. And, Jake, there's not much separation there. He's tucked right in behind him as they crest the hill.
That's the battle for fourth again. We watch it right now. Really good race yesterday for Bickers as well, who's trying to hold Stout off at this particular moment. Bickers yesterday had, in that 5, 6, 7 range, a lot of activity around him. There were so many passes on track yesterday, Mark, in terms of not just the front. I know sometimes when we watch races, you focus on the leaders, but you see right now, like in this battle for fourth, there are so many different opportunities for these drivers to feel the aerodynamics, to feel the drafting of these cars. Identically prepared machines, of course, but at all times, no matter where you are on the grid, seemingly there is someone around you. But for those first five, that someone around them is pretty much just that five. They've checked out just a bit. It's Ortiz, Luke Oxner running second, then Nico Reger, Joey Bickers, and Robert Stout.
Just damp enough to upset the grip in the rear of those race cars, Jake. And what control these drivers have as they snake their way through the S's. We see a pass for position there as Roland continues to pick off drivers at will. Jake, he's already up to second. And again, in case you missed it in the pre-race, he had to move to the rear of the field because of some issues, the crew working on the car in an unapproved area.
That was Todd Lamb, his latest victim. So now all of a sudden Roland works his way in, trying to get into that group with the front five itself. Ortiz, Oxner, and Reger. Good look at him right there as Ortiz goes a little bit to the middle of the racetrack. Sometimes you might want to try to go wide and work your way to the outside, but I think everybody's going to hold off on that just a little bit before maybe they feel a little bit more confidence when this track dries out.
Sparks and Kimball, those guys involved in a pretty good battle, and now all of a sudden the thing's starting to heat up there as the number 8 machine of Sparks is under attack from several cars behind him. Looks like he's going to lose a position to the S's.
There's a good glance again at Roland, who is working his way. Celine Roland currently running in the 7th position, but he actually now will be in the 6th position next time they come by because he had worked his way around Todd Lamb. Really good run for Roland, who no doubt was disappointed by the fact that he had to start further back in the pack because of working on the cars too late this morning before they went out and took to the green flag. Boy, you see people getting awfully loose there. That's Mark, you get that middle groove, that middle line, that track area dries out, but there still is some water that extends if you get too far to the outside. We call it marbles when it's collected rubber, but in this case, it's actually just the moisture itself that's going to cause you to lose grip if you get a little bit too confident on the outside.
Honestly, Roland's presence indicates and reaffirms the commitment that Mazda has to this series, Jake. He's a Mazda Road to 24 scholarship winner. He was behind the wheel during testing to start the season and did so because of a $100,000 scholarship from Mazda for winning the Global Mazda MX-5 Cup Shootout. That was held in November of last year. And Six Sideways put him in a race car, and he's making the most of that $100,000 opportunity.
No question about it. And so far, while one weekend does not a season make, he is showing that their confidence in him is more than justified. Yesterday, a very solid run. This, of course, a doubleheader weekend. It is race number 2 of 2 races that we will see here at the Circuit of the Americas. It was Brian Ortiz taking race 1 yesterday. This just one of 6 doubleheaders that takes place over the course of the season.
I mean, Ortiz is P1, but Jake, he literally doesn't have time to breathe. I mean, you can't race with your mirrors, but gosh, he's got to know that he's got 5 cars stacked up behind him.
And he's got them single file behind him right now. What Ortiz has to wonder, as somebody who made a late run yesterday when Nico Rager and then later in the race, John Dean the second led for a while, Roland late in the race, and then Ortiz was able to make his move. He's got to be thinking to himself, are others setting me up the way I set up and played it so perfectly yesterday? Front 5 really checked out. That 6th place machine, as you see, trying to get back up there into view. That's the machine of Todd Lamb. And Roland now, boy, he continues to work his way through. Let's put him now. That would put him in the 5th position. He gets a little bit loose. That's that car number 87. He's trying to work really hard right now on Joey Bickers.
The 28 machine of Robert Stout swings wide and is going to give up the position. And that 34 of Joey Bickers is next. And they are really laying on one another as the car washes out a little bit on Roland. But he's able to gather it back in. So give him another position now, and it's just a matter of time before he starts laying on Joey Bickers a little bit, especially to the bottom of the racetrack. A lot of grip in that car right now, considering the wet conditions. But he can't be too focused on Bickers because Robert Stout's right there all over him.
Mark, I think in this track right now, what you see over the course of these 20 turns, one groove in the middle where things have a little bit of grip, but you get too far outside as you see those rooster tails coming up just a little bit. There is still plenty of moisture here that makes things very, very interesting. And right now, that is Roland. Boy, what a battle we're watching right now. That's Celine Roland as he's trying to work in on that 34 machine of Joey Bickers. That's the battle for 4th.
That's where they say, I think this is one of those points like on a dirt track, Jake. They would say they have the elbows out here. That's and they are really flinging it around. Meanwhile, the front 2, Ortiz and Oxner, they've set up nose to tail. And while those 5 cars behind them slug it out, those 2 are starting to get a little bit of distance now.
Oxner, again, is going to try to take a peek to the outside, but he's not going to be able to clear that move. You see just behind him a pair of cars, if that makes sense, if you will. That is the 3rd place running machine that you see just in front of the 34 Joey Bickers. That's Oxner now, who has dropped to 3rd. Nico Rager has worked his way to 2nd.
A big save by Robert Stout. Contact between he and Celine Roland, and he almost lost the race car. It almost got sideways on him, and I don't know how they gathered it back in, Jake, but he was able to do it.
Boy, watch that rear end there you see on Roland when he worked his way around. You could see him just kind of fighting the wheel there inside of that machine as it has just gotten, as we talked about, slick out there, but we expect the conditions to dry. But Ryan Marine, let's be honest, when it comes to putting together good rubber, BF Goodrich has done that. Not only yesterday we saw, but today, a little bit different compound in these wet conditions.
Yeah, the wet tires today, Jake, you're right, and we've seen them very much on display. Pete Calhoun from BF Goodrich joining me now. What a great display of tire technology. Yesterday, the dries, today, the wets. You've really been able to show exactly what BF Goodrich brings to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. In our partnership with Mazda and the development of the Global MX-5 Cup car over the past 2+ seasons, you obviously look at a solution for both the dry and the wet. And our wet tire, the couple times we've had to use it, has really put on an excellent display of performance.
Why does MX-5 Cup make sense for BF Goodrich?
Well, Mazda and BF Goodrich, we've really been partners in different programs since the early 1970s when both of us were coming to market with some unique solutions. Then with the rotary engine, us with the radial tire in the American market. And we share a lot of similarities with our customer demographics. It's just been a great partnership for a number of years.
And it's a perfect place to display it, too. The racing is always so close, always so entertaining, and your tires are front and center.
Yeah, obviously, this weekend being the first event of the 2018 season, 32 cars have taken the starting grid the last 2 days. Been really exciting race yesterday with the top 10 running all bunched up for all 45 minutes. Today, they've been really clean here through the first 4 laps also.
We'll let you enjoy the rest of the race. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
About 30 minutes remaining in this 45-minute race, and Brian Ortiz, Nico Reger, Luke Oxner, Joey Bickers, they complete the top 4.
Boy, but Joey Bickers just had a problem there, and all of a sudden that 34 machine, he goes off, loses a little bit of grip, and as a result of that, he's going to lose all kinds of track space. And guess what? Don't look now, but look who that puts in the 3rd position. That red machine right there, you take a look at it, that is Celine Roland, as he has a trio of cars behind him. Robert Stout going to work to his outside, but that rookie has worked his way up into the 3rd spot.
Boy, Oxner is using a lot of the racetrack trying to keep pace with this bunch. Todd Lamb in that 84 is trying to keep pace with that threesome as well. As they kind of set up nose to tail, they start to pull away from him just a little bit. Now they bunch back up again. And, Jake, that's a really cool shot to the S's of those cars running nose to tail.
Great look at that 6 sideways machine. And, boy, he gets a little bit sideways. Talking about that number 87 machine, Celine Roland. He is running again in the 3rd position. Brian Ortiz, your leader. Top 10 for you. Then Nico Reger, followed by Roland. It's Luke Oxner running in 4th. 5th to Robert Stout. 6th is Todd Lamb. 7th position to Brian Henderson. Kyle Kimball holding in 8th. Yesterday's pole sitter, John Dean II, running in 9th. Joey Bickers now in 10th.
Of course, after Cade's installation and paint, the car's assembled with some 250 race-specific parts. The car, by the way, completely disassembled. The tub is cleaned of seam sealer and sound deadening material. And FIA, SCCA, and NASA-approved roll cage is welded into the car. It has a NASCAR-style door bars on both sides. And a protection, safety, all the hallmark. And, Jake, basically these are 2016-plus Mazda MX-5s. And it's known as the ND or 4th generation Miata. They're all built from white club trim level new cars. And it's all put together by the good folks at Long Road Racing in Statesville, North Carolina, north of Charlotte. And they've been given a lot of thumbs up for the product that they produce for these drivers and these teams.
And again, the great thing, you can go in and you can actually buy one yourself if you'd like. These are cars that are available, of course, obviously, probably a little bit different horsepower. But in terms of the actual body itself, to drive to work every day if you wanted to, you could do exactly that. Boy, Roland, again, getting very, very loose. As a matter of fact, had a little bit of a hiccup there that allowed for Herman Palermo to get past him. Palermo is working, I believe, a lap down. That's that 28 machine of Robert Stout that is right there with him. This is a very busy portion of the track in terms of the drivers trying to make up track position. Brian Ortiz, the leader, then Nico Reger, and then that 3rd place machine that you see. That's a good battle right there. That's the battle for 3rd. Celine Roland, he has right behind him Robert Stout, who has gotten now around Luke Oxner.
I think the whole approach is to promote an element of joy in racing, and the driver and the car being one. And, Jake, when you're talking about cars that are identically prepared, I think it does what it's intended to do. It puts it in the hands of the driver, and I think that explains such close quarters racing. But I think it also an element of this is what we just talked about. It's an opportunity for people to feel as though that what they're going to go roll off the showroom floor is pretty close to what they're watching race here at COTA today.
Oxner and Lamb, you just saw working their way around Herman Palermo. That puts him a lap down now, all the way running back through 7 machines. Totally agree, Mark. And the other thing that's interesting is when you're racing against a driver who has the exact same chassis, the exact same machine as you, one of the things I think here in the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series that we see is how just important aerodynamics seemingly would be in learning, Mark, the draft. Because you know when you come alongside a car, that driver essentially is working with the exact same everything as you. And so therefore, the engineering, if you will, the geometry of figuring out the line and figuring out how to work the clean air versus dirty air, all things that are very critically important. And I think something that through this series you probably learn and are able to experiment with as much as any other form of motorsports.
5th place running, Luke Oxner, car 77. resides in Greeley, Colorado. He's a native of Arkansas. Porsche Club of America, a Spec Boxster, and 996 GT3 Cup. That's some of his experience. His favorite part of MX-5 Cup, Jake, he likes the close competition. He's been involved in plenty of that this weekend. He likes the Mazda involvement, and he likes the fact that it's a spec car. One of his best moments setting the track record and sweeping the weekend in his Spec Boxster at Laguna Seca, a very historic racetrack. And so it would only stand to reason that Mazda Raceway at Laguna Seca, the Corkscrew, is one of his favorite tracks and favorite portions of the racetrack. When he's not racing, you'll find him running, mountain biking, and golfing. And throughout the course of this race, we want to give you an opportunity to get to know some of these drivers a little better than we'll be covering all throughout the course of the season. Let's head back to Ryan Marie.
Thank you, Mark. Standing by with one of the Masters class competitors, Zach Lee. Unfortunately, we're speaking to you a little bit too soon. What has you out of the race?
Transmission. The fifth gear went, and then I was continuing on, going down the straightaway fourth, and then the fourth gear went. So it's terminal.
Sorry to hear that. Certainly hope you can bounce back for the next one.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Very matter of fact, one of those racing deals.
That's right. Transmission goes, there's not a lot you can do, right?
No, that's right. How about the advantage that Ortiz has opened up here as they cross timing and scoring? We see the lead at 1.3 seconds. Rieger is trying to keep pace, but Jake, after we saw them running nose to tail for a while, we now get the impression that the separation is about the same. And I mean, I'm not suggesting that they're settling into a race pace, because I don't think those three behind him have any interest in Ortiz stretching that lead out much further.
No, but Ortiz yesterday, like I mentioned, and I'll probably mention 5 more times, if there's one driver that knows that it goes to the final turn, it's Ortiz, because yesterday that was when he was able to make the move and get the win. And you heard Ryan Marine mention it off the top of the show from his interview yesterday. What a journey it's been for Brian Ortiz. Back at Laguna Seca, at the end of the year last year to end the season, a visually terrifying accident that fortunately he was able to get out and walk away from, but the car was on the hood. He got out of it. He had all kinds of friends and family in Puerto Rico that were watching him and wanting to see what would happen. Everything that's happened in Puerto Rico that we know about since the storms down there. As you take a good look at Brian Henderson, by the way, that 97 machine running in the 10th position. But it's such a journey for Ortiz, and to be able to start off this year, Mark, and go, as Ryan had talked about, from going on his roof and ending up in victory lane in race number 1, such a shot in the arm for Brian Ortiz for this season.
Give me an idea what the schedule looks like for the remainder of this season. Rounds 3 and 4 at Barber Motorsports Park, April 21st and 22nd. The weekend of June 22nd, rounds 5 and 6 will be at Road America in Elkhart Lake. Then it's on to Mid-Ohio for rounds 7 and 8, the weekend of July the 27th. Then rounds 9 and 10 will be at Portland over Labor Day weekend. And then rounds 11 and 12, they'll cap off the season at the Monticello Motor Club. They'll run the full course there. Jake, it's 90 minutes from New York City, 4.1 miles in length. They do car storage, karting, even do fine dining and driving schools there. They have a BMW MZ racing school. And one of the drivers who have run test sessions there said, I would love to drive there until there's no more fuel left on Earth. That's how much they enjoyed that course. It's it's 90 minutes from New York City, as we said. It's the Monticello Motor Club full course.
Looks like we've had a change for the second position. That is Celine Roland, again, the 2018 Mazda Cup Racer Shootout winner, who is running now for Six Sideways Racing. And that Soul Red car, he now is the only thing between himself and the leader, Brian Ortiz, is about 6 or 7 car lengths. Then just behind him, all of a sudden, Nico Rieger, who, again, yesterday was so active. He was up there running in the second position just a lap ago. He's got Robert Stout all over him. That's the battle for third.
22 minutes remaining. Ortiz, Roland, Rieger, Stout, and Lamb, the top 5. Oxner, John Dean, the second. Kyle Kimball, Joey Bickers, and Brian Henderson complete the top 10.
Really good look at them as they work their way around this track. It is starting to dry. I thought, Mark, there was the possibility that they would get back to a completely dry surface over the course of this race. But in these 45 minutes, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to stay on those wets throughout. And as a matter of fact, you see just a little bit of sliding going on there. That's Nico Rieger. Really good look at him there. And that 0-1 machine. This is a veteran within this series. We have seen him in some fantastic battles over the course of the last season or so. Down in Birmingham, for example, Road America. There you see Roland. That's in second. Then there's Nico Rager. Rager running in the third position. The last of that quartet up front is Robert Stout. Front four has really checked out now. The lead for the leader, Brian Ortiz, is 1.6 seconds right now, so a pretty sizable gap.
Jake, we mentioned Brian Henderson completing the top 10. Just behind him in 11th is the 13 machine of Robert Noker. And if Noker's car was one number higher, it would match his age. A 14-year-old Robert Noker is competing today. First time he climbed into a race car was in a kart at the age of 5. And at 14 years old, he's made his debut in the battery tender Global Mazda MX-5 Cup. He moved to the Skip Barber Racing Series a couple of years ago, raced in Spec Miata with NASA, and he's raced a lot. His dad says he's put about 10,000 racing miles on his Miata over 16 weekends and 32 races, and he had 4 wins.
So what you're telling me is he knows how to park it in victory lane. He just doesn't know how to parallel park it in victory lane.
Well,
right?
They got to be careful.
Those lessons yet.
They got to be careful what they spray in victory lane too, with him being just 14 years old.
Get that Welch's sparkling grape soda.
There's a good look at him in that black and white machine. Just 14 years old, and he is mixing it up plenty as he is currently holding on to that 11th position. That's a great story there. Good for you, kid. It's just amazing, Jake. You and I, of course, have plenty of experience in covering stick and ball sports, and you know, how kids are able to compete at a higher level at an earlier age. And I think it just speaks to, as we said, he's been racing since he was 5 years old, and it's just the opportunities that they have to do this now at an earlier age and hone their skills.
And again, you just, with each level that you move up, you just become a little bit more acclimated. Some things just in terms of really good battle here, by the way, that we're taking a look at. That is a 3-wide battle, as a matter of fact. It's the battle for 24th, but that's Racer Kashima from Japan. He is one of just 2 from outside the United States running in this race today. Ortiz from Puerto Rico, I realize, obviously a United States territory, but we talked about Kashima yesterday. That's him in the 55 machine, and he is right now, Kashima, I got a little bit confused there. Kashima was in the 7 machine. He gave up position there to Ted Saley. That Saley who had an incident yesterday, but that's been a pretty good battle on the racetrack, but it's the battle right now for 24.
Yeah, Nigel Faulkner is involved in that too, and that's him in that kind of aquamarine and black and white car. You see that threesome continue to slug it out now. They've gained a little separation from those running behind them for sure. Really wide swing by Ted Saley now. He's all over the 7 and trying to keep pace as 82, Nigel Faulkner. Boy, look, he about ran out of room there, Jake. He took the runoff area and then some as they go nose to tail now down the straightaway before they start that uphill climb. By the way, 18 minutes remaining in race number 2 of this weekend.
You know, let's go over the top 10 again, because in particular, pretty big gap. There's a notable one from that front 4 and then everybody else. Brian Ortiz is your leader. Running in second is Celine Roland. Then Robert Stout runs in third. 4th to Nico Rager. Todd Lamb is in 5th. Luke Oxner, the 6th place machine. The 7th place car, that of John Dean, the 2nd. Kyle Kimball runs in 8th. Joey Bickers is the 9th place running machine. Brian Henderson in 10th.
And the teenager, Robert Noker, is 11th as Daniel Sparks is 12th. We expected him to move up a little bit. Alex Bashara is 13th. 14th is Jensen. Ashton Harrison is 15th. Koskinen is 16th. Hall is 17th. Brooks Leal is 18th. 19th, Austin Allison. And 20th is Joe Da Silva.
Really good battle for the lead here. Roland looked like he was going to try to get in on Ortiz, but Ortiz was able to hold him off. But again, boy, that guy has been so impressive, Celine Roland, as you watch him there trying to work his way and reel in Brian Ortiz, but that's not going to be an easy pass to make. Ortiz certainly aware of each and every place to put the car on the racetrack, gets himself a little bit of breathing room now if they work their way down one of those elevation changes. Call it a car length and a half lead, as you can see, but nearly a half a second was shaved off on the last time by, the last lap passed for Celine Roland in terms of trying to cut into that lead of Brian Ortiz.
And I think Stout, who runs behind them in third, understands the level of aggressiveness between those two young guns. And he is the interested spectator, I think, Jake. And I think maybe if they start leaning on one another a little bit, he's going to be the guy that sees the door opened up, and he may be able to steal the win late in this race.
Interesting, Mark. You kind of wonder, don't you, when you get down towards the nitty-gritty, where's the best position to be? You know, do you want to be up front? Do you want to be right there in second? Or, as you talked about, you maybe want to be in that third spot, figure out where the two leaders are going to go, let them slug it out, and then take a different line to try to work your way around. I
mean, Stout is no slouch. Pirelli World Challenge 2010 TC champion. World Challenge, Lucas Short Course Off-Road Pro Buggy, Rolex GT in 2011, King of the Wing Sprint Cars, of course, in 2015 and 2016. And he thrives on close quarter momentum racing. He calls it awesome and loves what Mazda is giving back to motorsports as a whole. He calls his best moment winning at Long Beach in 2010. His favorite track is Barber Motorsports Park. But right now, Robert Stout is lying in wait as the front two go nose to tail across the start-finish line.
Roland going to try to take a peek to the inside. Looks like he's going to make that move and does so with relative ease around Brian Ortiz. But now the question, is he going to get it hung out too far and let Ortiz back in? No, he's not. Nice move there for Celine Roland. He now takes the lead, put Ortiz to second, third place in Robert Stout.
Ortiz is not done. He's tucked right in behind him now as they crest the hill, and he'll work on him, stay right in the tire track, so much so that we're not able to see Ortiz come into our view until the very last moment. Stout is trying to keep pace, but he's starting to fade a little bit. You see Roland gets to the turn first, and I just think it appears as though, Jake, right now, he just has a little more grip than Ortiz does.
Got to wonder if maybe Ortiz early in the race, you know, did the movement around, did he start to wear off those BF Goodriches just a little bit more? Did Roland have a little bit saved up? We'll see, because Roland now getting himself a little bit more comfort over Ortiz. That's not to say he's comfortable by any stretch of the imagination, but boy, I'll tell you, if there's one car that you would think actually, Mark, had the most activity to go through, had the most tire wear at this point, it would be Roland, because you're starting at the back of the field. Now you've worked your way all the way up to the front.
You know, it's interesting, Jake, to watch these drivers on some of the courses that we get to see with the Horizon IndyCar Series. And, you know, we addressed this a little bit when we were at St. Petersburg. All the racetracks offer varying degrees of curbing in terms of what can and can't be used and where you can and can't go. There's no question these drivers figure out exactly where the limit is in terms of the curbing and the type that they can use to their advantage.
And the other thing, too, when you look at turn number one, you can make a pass to the inside, but when you do so, you have to know that all of a sudden that car that you just got around is going to be able to sweep it out to the outside, or you're going to be able to hold them off when they come back in and have a little bit of run off of that curbing. Right now, Ortiz, you see Stout. He goes all the way down there and then comes in. He's running in the third position, trying to make up track space and reel in Ortiz. Ortiz running in second, and then it is Roland just in front of him. Roland cuts down a little bit, kind of maneuvering all areas of the racetrack, really making the air difficult for Ortiz.
I think Ortiz is trying to force the driver in front of him, or Roland, into a quote-unquote rookie mistake, because he's tucked right in behind him, and Stout is keeping pace. Well, what's it like to be a dad and watch all of this unfold as we see a couple of offs? Ryan Marine will keep our eye on what's going on the racetrack, and you have a special guest on pit road.
Hello. Hi. That's right. I have the father, that proud father, watching Celine.
My heart's about to come out of my gut.
Yes. He's very excited down here. How proud are you of your son and what he's done?
I couldn't stand it. Very, very proud of him. It's incredible all the way from the back to the lead. It's incredible. The tires, those tires are amazing. I mean, oh my God. Yeah, very proud of him.
And he worked very hard to get here.
Yes, he did. We done basically everything ourselves. We worked on our cars. If it wouldn't have been for Mazda, we could not be here.
Well, we'll let you get back to watching it. You're doing a great job so far.
Thank you.
That's good stuff. And, you know, I've talked to a couple of drivers over the years, Jake, who watched their son race. And, by the way, 76 of Ryan Hall was the car that you saw stuck in the gravel, had contact with another car. Couldn't get a quick ID on that one, and there's a good look at the 76
Matt Koskinen was who he made contact with, and that ended up, unfortunately, you end up in that kitty litter, and then you're just kind of waiting and saying, can somebody come over here and pull me out? And you see he's trying to get that car out, but he's going to need a tow, I think, to get out of there. You see it right here, and then there it is. Just simply did not, when he was coming in through, did not see Koskinen on the outside, and you end up with that spin. Hall ends up in the kitty litter.
Yeah, that's. I would imagine there might be a discussion about that back in the paddock after this is over and ends the day for Ryan Hall. But I talked to the late motorsports broadcaster and Indy 500 co-rookie of the year, the late Larry Rice, several years ago when his son was racing in USAC, and we've talked to Davey Hamilton of the IndyCar Series about this, and very, very difficult sometimes for those drivers to watch their sons compete, because they felt like when they were in the cockpit, they had control, and it's a helpless feeling for them to watch their sons compete.
I think a lot of drivers would tell you as well, Mark,